Hey friend, this is Dr. Chuck Betters, and I want to welcome you to the 12 Days of Christmas, brought to you by MARKINC Ministries. Over the next 12 days, we are going to spend some time telling your stories, comments that you have sent about what this ministry means to you. We believe we are a unique ministry in many ways. There aren't too many organizations that are doing what we do. But the question becomes, why do we do what we're doing? And over the next 12 days, hopefully we're going to answer that question. Actually, you're going to answer that question by telling your stories of what this ministry means to you. This is my wife, Sharon. And Sharon, why do we do what we do here at Barking Ministries?
Well, Chuck, that's a good question that we often ask ourselves because Barking Ministries stands for Making Abundant Riches Known in the Name of Christ. And we started it actually many years ago. A group of businessmen came to you after we lost our 16-year-old son, Mark, and his friend Kelly in a fatal car accident. And you're very transparent in your preaching and your own faith struggles, and they wanted your preaching to go beyond the walls of the church. And that was the beginning of planting seeds that we had no idea God was going to grow this ministry into having a worldwide reach on hurting people. We were able to learn how to breathe again and to stay faithful in what we believed about the redemptive power of Jesus Christ, in part because God sent people to us who were further along in life's journey, who were willing to come back in their own pain and their own brokenness, bereaved parents, and walk with us and encourage us to believe that God is sovereign and we could trust Him. And there was a point where we knew we wanted to be those people for others, even beyond the loss of a child, any kind of hurt. We wanted them to understand the power of God's Word and the power of His love and the redemptive love of Jesus becoming the light of the world in the darkness, in the darkest corners of the brokenness of this world.
You know, it's interesting, in the early days of Barking Ministries, people from all over the country would call us because they had heard that we lost a child. And they wanted to know, what do we do now? How are we supposed to respond? We had such a person out in California that looked back in her own loss of several children that she lost and ministered to us. So we tried very hard to minister to everybody that contacted us. But after a while, it got to be too much. So we sat down and we decided, if we had you who just lost a child sitting here in the room with us, this is what we would tell you. And thus our first resource was born, the loss of a loved one. And that became something that we sent all over the place to people, and it since has evolved into all kinds of losses, all kinds of hurt, all kinds of darkness. Just before we started filming this particular series, I received a phone call from the wife of one of our board members. Originally, she talked to Sharon and informed her that her husband had just died after a long battle with an accident that affected his brain. Darkness. She is now walking in darkness. And we want to be there to help people like her with all kinds of loss. And it just evolved and just took off over these 20 plus years. It just took off into all sorts of different directions where we are able to preach Christ, the hope of a lost world, the hope of a dark world, what we call Him mostly at Christmas time, the light of the world in the midst of darkness. And that has evolved into what we hope you will listen to over the next 12 days as we explain to you why we do at MARKINC Ministries what we do as we tell your stories.